Okay, take it away.
Happy to start.
Yes, come on, yeah.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Dhammaloka.
Oh, that's really nice.
Yeah. It's some echo effect. Okay. Tonight's speaker is Ajahn Brahm, accompanied by Venerable Ananda and Nipa. Okay. So is the microphone?
Try this one, yeah.
Okay. Can I? Yeah, that one's better. Okay, let's give another try. Another microphone? I'll just try without microphone. Try again.
Top secret. This is going to be a fun evening. Thank you. This is wonderful. So now, it didn't work.
Oh no.
What have you done? Okay, so now we will start some meditation. I'm just acting up. So meditation is learning how to quieten the mind, make it peaceful. So let's now do that. I'll do the guidance, but I try to get the guidance over, not spend too much time doing the guidance, so we can have at least 10 minutes of silence. So if you'd like to get yourselves in the meditation posture, the best you possibly can, then I'll start with the meditation guidance. That's really good fun. So usually we sit down cross-legged, or sit on the floor, or if you need to, you can sit on one of the first-class seats against the wall, so you can lean back, put your feet out if you need to. But please don't fall asleep. If you do fall asleep, please don't snore. And with your eyes closed, why we close our eyes is to enable us to spend more of our attention, especially on feelings of the body. The eyes take a great deal of energy from our brain. We are very visual people. So by closing the eyes, it's one less sense to be concerned about. And also, please be reassured that this is a very safe place. You are protected. And with the eyes closed, start to become more aware of your physical feelings in your body. And usually starting with the feelings in your feet. I like to start a long way from your head. We're not just visual people, but in the West we spend so much time thinking. Thank you. That's an exercise in patience, which is always really good. So, how do your feet feel right now? Now, I am glad I do this exercise simply because my mindfulness starts in a place furthest from my head, and often I ignore my feet, especially when I start meditating, and then later on the feet get sore, squashed. I always tend to squash my big toe under one of the knees. That's not very good. So now I've adjusted my legs so the feet feel comfortable. And I wouldn't have been able to do that unless I spent the time being aware of my feet and being kind to them. It's what we call kindfulness, the combination of kindness and mindfulness. And with that kindness and mindfulness together, I can relax my feet. And I do this seriously. So I won't stop being kind to my feet until I feel they are relaxed. That ability to be aware, to be kind, and feel the ease, the relaxation, the peace starting to grow. That is the same process I will use for my whole body and then start using it for my mind. But starting with the feet. They now feel relaxed, just in that one part of the body. So now I move my awareness upwards, up to my ankles. Fortunately, my ankles are pretty good shape, so I don't usually feel any tightness there or any aches or pains. If I did, I would adjust my posture again to make sure that I've done the very, very best for my ankles. You may not be able to get perfect relaxation, but the fact you've tried your best is kind of recognized by the body. And any tightness does ease, problems are solved. And I start to move my attention up my legs, up the calves, first of all. Relaxing and relaxing and relaxing them. I can feel them. I have enough awareness over the years. You can feel how these calf muscles and the skin, especially at the front of the lower leg, how it feels. It's pretty at ease. But every time I'm aware of those muscles or the skin, every time I'm aware of it, it tends to relax for me and get more at ease. It kind of encourages me that this little method works. I go to my knees, and again I have fallen off ladders, fallen off motorbikes when I was young, had other sort of scrapes and injuries. But I look at those knees, wishing them well, relaxation, and if ever I do find any pain or tension there, just pause there, focus on that area. It does need some attention, so I will give it attention and kindness. Imagine I'm easing it, giving it some enough freedom just to be and to relax and heal up. Most of the injuries and pain is like when the muscles overreact and tighten up around an injury, preventing healing happening. And they go up past the knees, up the thighs. Great groups of muscles, which I now have to relax. And I was telling a lot of people, I've just come back from teaching a retreat in Malaysia and some talks in Singapore. In Malaysia, my room was on the top of a big building where we ate and where we gave interviews was at the bottom, 6 stories, and the lift, the elevator, broke down before I came. It was only fixed after I left. So every day I was walking up and down 6 stories, maybe 4 or 5 times a day. So my thighs should be very sore. So I relax them. I go to my buttocks, pressed against the cushion. I make sure that that feeling is even. You can't get that feeling to disappear, but you can be kind enough to it to lessen it to the max. And once it's even, it's like the kindness has done its job. And now my body from the buttocks down to the toes has been given attention, relaxed, so I can really feel at ease and not cause me any problem during the rest of the meditation period. At the same time, I'm developing these qualities of kindness plus mindfulness. As I sweep further up my body, up my back, at which point I usually straighten up my back. It feels better. I don't do this because it's supposed to be good. I feel it and it does feel good. And then I start again at the bottom of the torso and go up the digestive tract to make sure that all of that is at ease, at peace. And if there is any part of that which is tight, tense, I will relax it. It's amazing, as a monk, we don't know what we eat. So sometimes you do get tummy aches or infections, sore bowels or whatever. But as I practice this sweeping meditation, it's amazing just how you can make your digestive tract so at ease, so healthy. And you get up to your stomach, and that too can give it some kindness, experience it, relax it. As you go up the whole of the body like this, to the lungs, the heart, and the organs in the back, kidney, liver. Sometimes I'm not really quite sure where those organs are. But as I sweep my attention up the body, if I can see anything, feel anything, which is a bit tight or tense, then I will relax them. Simple to do. Can feel any sensation there. It's not the usual sensations. So just stay with them, give them this beautiful kindness. I'm kind to my own body. Then I get to my shoulders. When I get to the shoulders, I relax those. The usual way is just doing a visualization. Visualize the two invisible beings, pulling my shoulder muscles apart. Two beings on the left, two beings on the right. Stretching them when there's no need to. Then I invite them. Let go. Stop pulling at things. Trust that if you leave them alone, that's when they'll get healthiest. And it works for me, my muscles, I can feel them relax now. I go down my arms, past my elbows, making sure they're okay. Down the forearms to the wrists, and then to the hands. So often I don't really notice my hands till I get to them. That's when I always just readjust the position of the fingers. You find out what is the best position for you. For me, it's just how I started meditating, right hand over the left hand, thumbs slightly touching. Feels comfortable. But you can find another one, as long as it's comfortable for you, great. I go back up to my shoulders and neck. I've been talking so much overseas that sometimes your throat does get a bit hoarse, simply from over talking. So relax it, wish it well, thank it. Anything which is like a compliment is what relaxes. And then I go up to my face. Very nice today. Some young man came from the Mon country. And we asked him, how old does Ajahn Brahm look? And you know what he said? No joke, he said 25. I said, I like that man, he can come anytime he likes. He should get his spectacles changed first. But anyway, I can feel the sensations of the muscles around my eyes, around my nose, around my mouth. That's because the focus of my meditation on this moment. I relax all those muscles. Relax it all to the max. when everything is relaxed. You can feel the sense of ease on your face, but also the tension in those muscles is a sign of an emotional tightness played out on your face. So when I relax my face, I also relax any type of fear or anxiety or anger or stress. All that goes as well. And one of the last things I do, not always, sometimes, I imagine my brain. And I imagine, just imaginations, just having a hinge on my skull just above the right ear, which allows me to open up my skull, take out my brain and put it in a little basket with a soft mattress underneath, a nice warm blanket on top, and a little pillow, because I need my brain to relax. It's overworked. And so I take my brain out to give it some R&R. And then when I'm finished with that, my body feels very relaxed. And the relaxation of the body has a special feeling associated with it. A very delightful feeling. And when that comes up, I focus on it, because that takes the relaxation deeper. It shows me that I'm not afraid of the delight which comes from meditation. It's a very positive influence for a meditator. And the body can feel so relaxed. And then, at the right time, I ask myself to move into the mind. I ask myself, how peaceful do I feel? Because peace is one of the most important qualities of the mind, which we should learn about in our meditation. How can I make my mind more peaceful? One way is to stay in the present moment. So I imagine my mind with all the past it can carry around with it, like a big bag in my left hand, and all the future you can carry around, like another big bag in the right hand, and letting those two bags, slowly lowering them to the ground. So you're not carrying any past or any future, just for a few minutes, that's all. You can explore and enjoy what we call the present moment, just now. And again, be aware of it with kindfulness. Be kind to the present moment. Now is where your future is made. Now is where you can live most of the time. You learn more from the present moment than you'll ever learn from the past. So right here, right now, what are you aware of? Whatever it is, be kind to it. Let it be. Open the door of your heart to this moment. If it's unpleasant, it's what you learn from. It eventually becomes very, very pleasant. I'm now going to be quiet, so you can enjoy the last 5 or 6 minutes of the meditation. Just being here. If you can, in silence, There is no need to give a running commentary. We're coming close now to the end of this meditation period. How do you feel? How peaceful and content are you? Because those two things go together. And how relaxed is your body? Usually, when I come out of the meditation, my body is so wonderfully relaxed. The mind is really peaceful. It's a great thing to be able to do. Or rather, to be more accurate, it's a great thing to be able to feel when you don't do anything, when you relax to the max with peace and stillness. Okay, I'm now going to ring the gong 3 times. Please wait for the 3rd ringing of the gong, and then you may open your eyes to come out from the meditation. Great. So, please find a nice space here to sit. There is a lot of space at the front here, especially on the stage here. But you have to shave off a bit of hair first of all. I don't know why people laugh at that suggestion. It's a nice thing to be able to do. Are you scared of shaving your hair off? Remember I told that to a couple of kids. I said, would you like to be a novice, a monk? I said, no. Then I said, well, you don't have to go to school. Your mummy won't tell you what to do. You can have a nice bed to sleep on. They said, yes, okay. But anyway. And one of the really interesting things which I always, sometimes confounds me why this happens. Whenever I give a Dhamma talk, honestly, I don't know what on earth I'm going to talk about. Even right now, sometimes I used to be a little bit more circumspect and just think of a subject before I came in the hall. These days I don't even do that. Start with the subject and see what happens next. And this is almost like a sign of confidence, but it's also a sign that I do, as you know, I look at each one of you, scan the audience, and I find out what you want, what you need to hear, instead of having preconceived ideas and taking notes. I would never be able to do that, honestly. And one of the reasons is because I don't have time to prepare talks. I just give too many of them to prepare. Instead, you just feel and just want to give as best you possibly can. And when you have the correct attitude, you just started with a peaceful meditation, then there's no fear at all. I know one of the subjects which I was supposed to talk about was last night over in Singapore, was to teaching, no, not last night, it was the night before, was teaching about why people have fear of the future. And because especially when it gets to a new year, we're always thinking what's going to happen next, 2023, and how should we have fear about the situation in the world, the situation in Australia, the situation in Bodhinyana monastery. I don't know if there is a situation over there. I've only just arrived for 24 hours and you've hidden it very well, so well done. Whatever you see, you can always see as that wonderful little simile of the two bad bricks in the wall. You can see just all the mistakes in things, in life or in yourself. And that was one of those insights which came up when I first came here to Perth, and just how beautiful that insight was. I'm going to repeat it again now. I had to build. Now what did I do before I was a monk? I was a theoretical physicist. The last people in the world who could know how to lay a brick or mix concrete, but that's something which you had to learn. The nice thing that you had confidence, willing to try anything. So I laid my first brick wall, and that was when, as many of you know, because you've read the story in the book, or you've heard me say this before, it's a powerful story. I made 2 mistakes. 2 bricks were crooked, the rest of the bricks were fine. But those crooked bricks, they stood out so much that I honestly wanted to destroy the wall so I could start all over again. So the third thing which I'd done, I was kind of a perfectionist. And somebody mentioned that just over in, I think, Singapore. They had a son like that, and they would never actually submit anything at their university because they always thought it was never good enough. It had to be perfect first. And if you're like that, you will be anxious and also, a lot of the time, depressed and never actually doing anything with your life. So when I did my first brick wall and realized I messed up, that's why I wanted to destroy it and start all over again. But it was fortunate that as monks at that time, we were really poor. I think we still had some debts to pay off for buying the land. We couldn't afford to push it over and start all over again. And that really disappointed me. Can't we do something? No, we were stuck with that. Or at least I was. And the fascinating part of that, every time I thought of that wall, I only thought of 2 bricks, the faults. Every time I went past it, my eyes would immediately just go to my 2 faults. And I'd even dream of it, nightmares, only seeing 2 bad bricks. And that's one of the reasons why you notice that when we do make mistakes, how often do we focus on the faults, on what's wrong with the economy, look, I just come back from overseas. The economy in Australia is amazing. Yeah, some people are poor, but there's always enough food. And if you want to have got no place to stay, if you're homeless, there's always some very nice bridges at this time of the year. It's nice and warm. In other words, you can always see some positive side to it. But then, when I made my 2 mistakes, that's all I could see. And this is a great point to this, because then another gentleman came to visit, and he saw that wall and said, "What a beautiful wall." And sometimes people are like that to me. Sometimes they want something, so they say, "What a great talk that was." And they say, "What do you want?" They use praise as a sort of, like a leverage tool. But this man was being honest, and he said it was a beautiful wall. So of course I said, "Can you not see those 2 bad bricks?" And then what he said, I can never remember who he was. If I did find out who he was, I'd feel like bowing to him as a great teacher, to me anyway. And he said, "Yes, I can see the 2 bad bricks, but I can also see the 998 beautiful bricks as well." And that's something which I couldn't see until he pointed them out to me. Yeah, there were 2 mistakes in that wall, but the vast majority was beautiful. It's good enough. And it actually is still there. That's about 35 years later. I know many of you, especially you come from overseas, Bodhinyana monastery does attract tourists now. And so people come in their cars, and they actually, remember years ago, these Italians came in the car, and I said, "Can I help you?" They said, No, we're not interested in seeing the monks. This was a Bodhinyana monastery. We've come to see your kangaroos. They were more important than we were. I was a bit jealous, to be honest. But the reason was because, the monks were always kind and peaceful. The kangaroos have got to know us, and so they don't jump away. It's a very easy place to go and see a kangaroo, Bodhinyana monastery. But it's an easier place if you want to see a monk. But anyway, so just to be able to notice the beauty in that wall. And if you do go and want to see it, like many people do, it is there in the monk's toilet block. Honestly, that was one of the first buildings we built. That's where it is. So sorry, you can't have a conducted visit to the monk's toilet block to be able to see it. But anyway, that's not the point to see these things. The most important point is what it meant. Why is it that we can be so negative? It's a beautiful wall, it does its job, it's fine. But why was it I wanted to destroy that? And I noticed that in life. How many people want to destroy a relationship? Could you see 2 bad bricks in your partner? Or you get negative to yourself because you see 2 bad bricks in yourself. 2 faults. How many of you just want to change your job because you see 2 bad bricks in your job? Why is it that human beings can be so negative instead of realizing no matter what job you do, there's all some very beautiful things to focus on? And so much so that I told this to a psychologist who asked me permission in Malaysia. Said, I use many of your techniques and stories, in my job as a clinical psychologist. Is that okay? And I said, of course it's okay. Of course you should know there is, what is it called? The patent charge for using any of my stories? Royalties. I'm only joking, there's no royalties for using my stories. I'm just really happy that it sometimes works and people like to make use of them. But the psychologist was actually saying that they really value them because they work. And that's also one of the reasons why there's many psychologists who come here and get some more interesting information on how to deal with the problems of life. Just like that time when I was invited to give a lecture at an annual meeting of the Sydney psychologists. So we went over to Sydney, nice hall, and they wanted me to say something about Buddhist psychology. So I said to them that one of the biggest problems of human beings is that they always try and hide the problems they face in life. So that's never going to help anybody. But then if you admit to those problems, that doesn't help either, because it gives you some business to do, and you've already got enough business to do. So I introduced the Buddhist way of dealing with your past bad karma, or the past karma which other people have done to you. And I say the best way of dealing with that, using just what they know already, but then extending it. I said the best way of doing this is to write it down on a piece of paper. That didn't really interest them so much because that's what they always do. But then I said the Buddhist way is the type of paper you choose and also the colour of the ink which you choose. So the best paper to use, especially this time of year, New Year's, you want to start next year in a beautiful, good way. So choose the paper which it's very cheap too, readily available, called toilet paper. It's a big roll, and actually for the size of it, it's very, very cost effective. Get a roll of toilet paper, and the ink you use has to be dark brown colour. You can get that in the shop really easy. Thank you for laughing. You got such a nice laugh on a Friday night. So anyway, dark brown ink, toilet paper, and write down all these terrible things which you have done in 2022, which other people have done to you, what the government has done, what the economists have done, what the Buddhist society has done, I don't care, what anybody has done. Write it all down there, dark brown ink on toilet paper. And you know when I was saying this in the conference, I remember all these psychologists and top psychiatrists even over in Sydney were writing it all down, taking notes on what I was going to say. And anyway, you have lots of space to fill in so many details. And once you've finished, I think even you have seen what happens, the psychological connection between the paper you're using, the colour of the ink, and what you're writing down on that. Please excuse me, it's S-H-I-T which you're writing down. That's the other brown stuff which goes on toilet paper. And you're making the connection. This is really filthy, dirty stuff. Why on earth do people keep this stuff year after year after year? So what should you do when you've got the brown stuff on toilet paper? She's gone again. It's obvious. You take it to the ceremonial room in which you deal with brown stuff on toilet paper. You take it into the loo. And once you're in the WC, then you don't do anything yet. Sit down on the comfortable seat and read it to yourself once again. All this terrible stuff which has happened to you, other people have done to you over the past 12 months. Like I was saying, all those, actually they're really nice people in Malaysia, they're probably listening, but making me on the top story where the basement was where I was spending so much time, and making me walk 6 stories up, especially after lunch, and it was warm and hot, and you had to walk all the way up, and then walk all the way down, all the way, no lift, the lift was dead, it wasn't working. And I thought they should have done something. As I said, like hire a helicopter, I don't know, a cherry picker, I don't know, or something. But anyway, you might say, oh, it's very good exercise. It's all right to say that, but you do it. So anyhow, you take it to the toilet, you read it again to make sure it's in the front of your mind. And then, of course, you do the letting go ceremony. You tear it up in little pieces, you put it in the bowl, and then you may do a chant. Sometimes you do the death chant, Anicca Vata Sankhara or whatever, bye-bye toilet paper. And then you press the button at the top. And that memory of the past associated with SHIT swirls down out of your life forever. It's actually very effective. But please, because I know that many of the people who look after Dhammaloka Buddhist Center are here, please don't do it in this place. Otherwise you'll block all the toilets without 5 minutes. There's many other nice toilets around. You can. But anyway, it's a beautiful little simile. It works. Simply because the associations you make and the fact you can and should let it go. That's the thing which was really impressive, but kind of scary. Why can't people let these things go? Especially the painful ones. This is one example of this. Many years ago, I remember Dennis was with me when I went to this grief and loss conference over in was it called Observation City, that big hotel in Scarborough? Do you remember that, Dennis? Because I gave a nice Buddhist discourse on how to let go of grief when someone close to you has died. And in the audience was the mother of one of the girls who was killed by the Claremont Bayview serial killer. They didn't know who the serial killer was at the time. And I was, told that she was there. And so I wanted to give a nice little talk about how to let go of the grief and loss. And the old story, when my father died, was just, instead of looking at your father's death as a great tragedy, of course it was in one sense, but it was also the case I'd known that man for 16 years. And I really valued, what he taught me. If you don't know, I'm sure many of you do, he was the one who taught me about opening the door of your heart. It was a wonderful little act of kindness. A father's love to his son. Took me aside one evening after school, and he said, son, whatever you do in your life, however you turn out, and it was pretty uncertain. I was a young man, I was smart at school, but who knows how you're going to turn out in the rest of your teenage years. However you turn out, I want you to remember one thing. He said, the door of my house is always open to you, will always be open to you. It was only a small council flat, but the way he said it meant so much. The door of his house will always be open to me, no matter what I ever do. And he meant it. And years later, of course, that's one of the examples of benefits, of being a monk or a nun. You have the time later on. These are things that are important. You really want to know what they truly mean. And of course I started contemplating. He never meant the door of his house. He meant the door of his heart. This was a family home, and he would never shut me out. And that's when I got beautiful way of expressing loving kindness. The door of our hearts are always open to you, no matter what you do, no matter who you are. And that meant so much, especially when you started teaching in prisons. There were so many people in there, people were scared of, terrified of. These were rapists, murderers, really violent people. I remember seeing some of the people in the jail, and they were really violent a lot of the time. But I learned this in the forest, first of all in Thailand and then in Australia. There were some very dangerous animals in the forest. Snakes who are very venomous. But they are never going to bite you unless they're scared. All those animals in the jail will never harm you unless they feel threatened. Just like animals crawling in the forest, just the same. Just like me, probably. If I was in a prison or a jail and feel threatened, of course you feel you have to defend yourself. But anyway, just when I went in jail, I never wanted to do that at all. So instead, you always saw the beautiful things in the people there. And I was saying to them, I open the door of my heart to you, murderers and rapists and thieves, no matter who you are, no matter what you've done. Because I did that sincerely, seriously. There's no way I could get harmed in jail. Imagine these are prisoners who are in long sentences, and because of that, they can basically do whatever they want. They're going to be in jail for most of their life, some of these guys. So they've got nothing to lose. So remember, because of that, just going into the old Canning Vale jail years ago. They've changed the names now. But anyway, when I went in there, that's when you got to check in with the main gate. Yeah, okay, you're invited. And they gave me a pen, like a biro pen. And they said, put it in your pocket. I said, hang on, look at me. I don't have a pocket. And they said, okay, just hold it. So what is it anyway? And they said, new security. Because a few visitors like me had been attacked. And the prison officers couldn't get there in time. So he said, take this pen. And you might see, we've told the prisoners we've installed some fire alarms on the ceilings. They say, if you get attacked, take the pen, press the top, which usually makes the nib come down. Press the top, point at one of the fire alarms. The alarms will go off, and we'll come and get you and protect you. They said, this is top secret. You cannot tell any one of the prisoners. Otherwise, it's useless. So as soon as I went into my class, I was holding this pen, no pocket to put it in. And so they said, oh, you got one of those security alarms too, have you? Of course they knew exactly what was going on. They're very smart. And then one of them, he was this wonderful friend. He was the guy when I first went into prison, at Bunbury prison. He was the one who just interrupted my first talk and said, is it really true that through meditation you can fly over walls? When I said, well, it can be done, but it takes many, many years, and it means a very skilled meditator. It's not that easy. It was him, this big guy, big Australian guy, lots of, what's it called, scars on him. And it was him who also said, you got one of those security pens too, have you? And I said, yeah. And then he looked at me, he was right in the front, and said, Brahm, do you really think you could even press the top of that pen before I jumped you and raped you? I said, no. You must be too fast. But I wasn't scared when he threatened me like that, because then he smiled, said, Ajahn Brahm, you don't need to worry. There's lots of us in the front. If any of the guys in the back try that, we'll get to them first. That's what he said. And that meant so much to me. It meant that over those years you got this wonderful friendship, which meant that these people would look after you. And of course, it does actually work. Because I remember one of those wonderful things which somebody said to me, unexpected, was when I got a call, again, it was from the same prison, but from a different prison officer, who said that he was about to retire. He'd been in the prison service all his life, and he said, I want you to come back to this prison. This is one of the last things on my bucket list. I want you to come back to Canning Vale Jail and teach. And I said, no, look, and I'm an abbot now, a spiritual director of this and spiritual dictator of that. So much stuff I have to do. I have to go overseas to teach here, to teach there. And then I said, I'll send someone else. And at that he said, no, I want you. And of course then you say, why me? There's other monks, other really good monks. Why me? Then he said, because I've been in the prison service all my life, and there's something unique I've seen with you, Ajahn Brahm. What's that? He said, every prisoner, he did say every, who comes to your class never comes back again when they're released. Zero recidivism. And when he said that, it kind of blows your mind when people give you praise like that. And of course I said, I'll see what I can do. But then, afterwards, I spent a lot of time thinking, why? Why is it a Buddhist monk can go into a prison and then, once they come to my classes, they never feel they need to come back again? One of the reasons is, again, because you look inside of them, you tell them to get the toilet paper and the brown ink and all those terrible things which they've done. Please forgive it. How do you forgive it? Write it on toilet paper in brown ink. Why are you carrying around so much shit? And it's true, isn't it? If you've got something you're ashamed of, something you wish you really didn't do, why do you keep that? You don't have to. And because they respected me, that they could let it go. And that would mean they didn't need to go to prison ever again. And that is exactly how the Buddha taught. It's one of the things which inspired me when I was a layperson looking for some spiritual path in life. Because there was no sense of punishment or guilt. And that's a wonderful thing, no guilt. So you can feel free. Buddha said, if something happens to you like that, admit it. That's the writing it down on toilet paper. Admit it, learn from it, and then let it go. What do we call that here in Australia? AFL code. Acknowledge, forgive, learn. And that's for yourself as well. And so that was very helpful. So anyway, one of the reasons people don't want to do that, one, they think they shouldn't, but another two, they don't know how. So I was trying to help that. And it really worked in jails. So many of those people did wonderful things afterwards. So that fellow, or that lady I was saying, who had the daughter who was killed by the Claremont serial killer, that after my talk about how to let go, I valued my father's life. It's beautiful what he did for me. So 16 years, as I often say, like a great concert. I wouldn't have given that up for the world. So at his death, I never felt sad. I never felt sad after some of the great concerts I'd been to in my life as a young man. I grew up in London in the 60s and 70s. Remember going to see the Rolling Stones when I was 11 years of age. I shouldn't have been in there, but I managed to sneak in. I remember seeing, and this really upset some people, I remember seeing the very first concert of Led Zeppelin in a marquee club in Wardour Street in London. It was real. I remember Jimmy Page saying how nervous he was. He was the lead guitarist. How nervous he was at the very first concert. I didn't tell many people, but I saw one of the first concerts of Deep Purple. And that was in the Albert Hall. They were doing the number 2 act for somebody else. And I also remember, which makes many people jealous, going to this small pub in North London, and the top of the pub, they had a little room, and there was a band there, and only 6 people turned up to watch them. And I was one of those 6. The lead singer later became famous. His name was Rod Stewart. Sir Rod. You know is. But anyway, seeing all these amazing people there. And I remember just after listening to this great music, what did I do? Did I cry when the concert was over? To say, oh no, it's over, I'm not going to hear this ever again. No, I left those auditoriums, club rooms or whatever, just feeling so happy. What a beautiful performance that was. And I wouldn't miss that for the world. That's when my father died. That's how I felt. Great performance, Dad. Yeah. And how lucky I was to have been there for all those years. No grief, but a sense of luckiness, fortune, like winning a lottery. I had a great dad. So many of you love, your relations. You think, what a wonderful performance that was. Thank you, partner. Thank you, parents. Thank you, son or daughter who passes away a bit too early. But anyway, there was no negativity there. But I remember this lady, she came up to me afterwards. She almost put her nose touching mine. You know when people are really angry? I think was it John Howard used to call it shirt fronting? Was it him or one of the other politicians? Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. Go right up to someone, really trying to intimidate them. And this lady, nose to nose almost. And I remember what she said to me. What right have you to take away my grief? And that kind of shook me because I thought, grief is suffering. Why don't you want to let it go? And of course, there's no point arguing with a person like that. She'd probably, even though I was a man, she'd probably take her hand and thump me or something, I don't know. But anyway, she was really angry. And it told me that sometimes that people are quite attached to negative emotions. Why? Because that's the special feature she had for her life. Taking that away was like taking away her ego. That's who she'd become. I thought that was weird, but I've seen that so many times in the past. You're kind to yourself, but you can't be. You think that, no, I'm a bad person, I don't deserve this. Sometimes it's really hard for me as a monk. You can see they're really great people, but they never think like that. And so Even sometimes some people have come for some sort of counselling and think, no, I don't know why you're being so nice to me. And sometimes whatever monks are next to me in the hall, the attendant monks and some of the lay people, I said, look at this girl over here. Do you think she's a nice person, a really good person? And they say, yes. So we use Australian democracy, we have a vote. And we all outvote her. She's the only one who says she's not a nice person. We say, yes, you are. Does that work? A little bit, but not that much either. So why is it that people always like to see the negative part of themselves? That's why it's not just writing with brown ink on toilet paper. That's only half the story. The other part is getting some nice, expensive note paper with flowers in the corner and getting a beautiful, the only one I could know here is a Mont Blanc pen. It's very expensive apparently. The only reason I say Mont Blanc pen was because once one of the really nice disciples over in Penang, he knows who he is, he's probably listening, he gave me a pen once. He said, I just bought this as dana for you, as like an offering. And you signed so many books. And my goodness, I was signing heaps of books in Singapore. I think my hand is still sore. I don't know why people... Actually, I make it worse for myself. Because if ever I sign Ajahn Brahm in there, you've seen me sign Ajahn Brahm, the A has always got a nice happy face on it. You know, it's not just an ordinary A, I put a little face on it with a big smile on it. That's very nice when you're signing books, but sometimes I've done that and had to do it all again when you were signing official forms for the BSWA to the tax office or something. Yes, you can't do that, but sometimes you forget. I don't know, maybe you could, I don't know. I've never tried it, always tear it up and start again. But anyway, it's also getting the happy stuff up. And look, okay, I made a wall with 2 bad bricks, but how much else have I built over in Bodhinyana monastery over all these years? Yeah, maybe I may say a couple of bad things. There's still some people who think I should not use the SHIT word, so I really try hard not to say shit, but oops. I'll say it again. One of the nice things to know is you don't have to be perfect. So when you're not perfect, you can give a talk and just see what comes out of your mouth. I enjoy it, and if I enjoy it, I look at each one of you, and you could enjoy it too. It's something which is important for you. So you also remember to put some nice things about yourself on a piece of paper. And I remember this story, I read about it such a long time ago, and I started incorporating this. He said, also, get a piece of paper out, a nice paper this time, a nice pen. Of course, the Mont Blanc thing, I didn't know that was an expensive pen. Because I don't go to shops and buy things, I don't watch adverts on TV, I don't know what is expensive, what isn't expensive. And that was the reason why I was happily signing books with this, and it was a very nice pen to sign books with. And then someone came out to me and said, Ajahn Brahm, what are you doing with a Mont Blanc pen? Now, those are really high class, they're very expensive, it's a sign of status. So they took it away from me. And they auctioned it for the nuns' monastery or something. The nuns got benefit out of it, not me. But anyhow, that was just a nice little story, a true story. So, but you, to do this, get a nice pen, nice paper, and write down all of the good qualities of you. I remember sitting down with a prisoner once doing this, and he said, look, Ajahn Brahm, you're wasting your time. There are no good things about me. There must be something. There's none. I'm in prison. I'm a terrible person. You must have done something good today. He said, no, I haven't. It was really hard. And I said, well, look, what was the first thing you did this morning? And he said, well, actually, I saw the prison cat, and I gave it some milk. Great! Put that down. Number one, I fed the cat a saucer of milk. It's a nice thing to do. And the point was that once I got the breakthrough, the first thing which he did good, the next thing was quite easy to get. I forget what it actually was, but he did another nice thing. Oh yeah, I did that. And another nice thing. And he soon filled up the paper with some of the other beautiful, kind, generous things which he'd done as a prisoner inside the jail. And then afterwards, I said, can I have this please? And he gave it to me. And then I said, no, this is really important, this is really precious. This is some of the wonderful things which you have done. Now what I want you to do, and please promise you'll do this, I want you to photocopy it many times, then laminate it so it doesn't get destroyed, and keep it with you. Another sheet in your room, another sheet in whatever place you have to work inside this jail. So you can always remind yourself of your good qualities. You look at your prison outfit, you remember why you're in there. You look at this piece of paper, you realize there's much more to you than the reason why you've been put in a jail. It works. And because you remind yourself of your good qualities, that balances your estimation of yourself. You realize you're not a bad person. Terrible things have happened to you, but they've gone down the toilet cubicle. Now you keep the beautiful memories. And that's actually far more fair to yourself. Because when you look at the good qualities, that encourages you to do more good qualities. Every time somebody praises me, because I helped you on something or other, then that makes me more willing to do that again. So if you tell your husband, thank you, darling, for coming home early this evening, and for giving me more money to buy the household goods, and for liking those new curtains I've just bought. That's so kind of you, darling. Or whatever, anything like that. Flattery gets you everywhere. It does. I know sometimes people say flattery gets you nowhere. That's not true. Flattery gets you everywhere. So, we've got one of the where's she gone? We've got one of the best vice presidents of our Buddhist society. Is she still here? Where's she gone? I can't see her. Oh, she's over there. Oh yeah, I can see you now, right in front of me. One of the best vice presidents of our Buddhist society. And so what happens then, because we're going to have another AGM next year, so we do need her to stand again. We got one of the best, who else can I put? Oh, one of the best bookkeepers of our Buddhist society, Madhu. She was really nice. I remember, Madhu, that I was on the way to the airport with Nicholas, one of the best attendants, and so we had a meal in Dome on the way, somewhere on the way to the airport, because there's no way I could get any place to have lunch. And then Madhu was in there. She saw me in there. I'm very easy to recognise. It must be my bald head. And so you came out with some cakes. You gave it to us. But we couldn't eat the cakes. We're already full. I've got to be very careful if I'm flying. If I have too much weight and sitting on the window seat, which I like, then the aircraft won't be able to straighten up. We keep going around in a circle. So that was wonderful, because then we gave it to Nicholas, who took it to the nuns' monastery. And they really enjoyed it. Little things like that are wonderful. That was a wonderful idea. Thank you, accounts. Thank you. Who else can I say thank you to? There's lots of you over here. Another committee member over there who looks after us, Fung. And she's an amazing committee member. She's the one who cleans my spectacles all the time. Even when they're not dirty, I still give it to her. So whatever you praise people, and of course we've got our Aurora. She's the, what do you call yourself, admin officer or something, admin officer assistant. That's one of her now, who else? We've got so many volunteers here as well. Who else have I missed out? Can't see you in the back there somewhere. Oh, we've got Bill. Bill over there. He's the one who leans against the door to keep the door open. And the back, that's what he's doing. And all the admin staff over in the crew which does the audio visual. If you praise people, you find that they like coming. If you criticize them, why are you always sitting like that? Why are you pointing your feet at the Buddha? Why are you not paying attention? Why? Please don't ever criticize anybody. If they're pointing their feet at the Buddha, it's because their feet hurt. Buddha's compassionate. Would always say, oh, I don't care. Please, as long as you feel good. And then, after a while, we understand just how we really can have a happy New Year. Please block up as many toilets as you can. And write out as many happy messages to yourself to show how much you appreciate yourself. How a prisoner who fed a saucer of milk to a cat just tried to ignore it, but wasn't allowed to. Eventually wrote it down, photocopied it, preserved it with the laminate, and then it could be with them all the time. They remembered their good qualities. Even traditional Buddhists say that on your deathbed you must always remember your good qualities, not your bad ones. And if you can do that, then they say you can go to a heaven realm. Don't wait to prove that when you're dying. Do it now. And that's a much better thing to do. Okay, so that's enough. Ajahn Brahm praising everybody. And we also got a very good monk over here, Ananda, who looks after our visas and finance. What else do you do? Not much. That's a very good attendant. Old friend I haven't seen for years, so sitting next to me. So thank you all for listening. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And now we see any questions, comments and complaints. First from the audience down here. The amazing audience down here. Eddie, our professional question master. So what have you to add to this wonderful evening?
Oh, Ajahn Brahm, you started the talk with fear of the future.
Fear of the future, yeah.
And also qualities in people, you know.
Yeah.
Don't you think, Ajahn Brahm, we are now living in a very mad world, you know? Yeah. Where the quality, you know, and that comes from the problem in the world is from the minds, you know, minds of the top people, politicians, you know.
Well, we've got one of the top people here this evening, the Vice President. That's a top person. Yeah. You're not talking about CEOs of big companies, are you? You're not talking about politicians. Yeah. You're not talking about leaders of countries.
Leaders of countries, for example, like the war in Ukraine.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, that's
this
not good.
These are all from the ego of the people in power. Yeah. You know, people are dying. Come on, people are dying, suffering. You know,
they are.
Yeah. And can't you come to your senses? Realize your ego, this thing lower, and reach out, you know, and solve it can be done, you know. But we've lost the good mankind has lost the good quality, you know.
It can be done.
No.
So Eddie, I expect you to vote for me in the next election for the Prime Minister of Australia, as well as the... No, one thing I did find, the Pope. To elect a Pope, it does not need to be a cardinal. The cardinals do the election, they choose. They don't have to elect another cardinal. They don't even need to elect a Roman Catholic. So I was going to put my hand up to be the next.
Maybe we should nominate. You should form a group, you know, of well-wishers, you know, to come to help. What I call the United Nations is hopeless, you know. Maybe it should be high time for it to move to a neutral location whereby it can do its course, its thing. It's going mad, Ajahn Brahm, don't you think? It's mad.
Some parts are mad, but not all. We're not mad in our Buddhist society of Western
I know
Australia.
we are not, but you look at, like, for example, I said the war, just for example.
Yeah.
And it's going on, and we human beings, we're seeing this going on. What are we doing? You know?
What we are
People
doing,
are suffering, you know.
They are suffering.
Yeah.
But what we are doing, we're teaching people how to let go of suffering. And sometimes you have to do things way, way different. Basically, if I was with a Mr. Putin, I would just be kind to him.
I think take two sides, Ajahn Brahm, not just one side, this thing.
Kind. Because kindness is way more powerful than anybody would ever think. I think I mentioned this in one of the last talks I gave. After 9/11, I happened to be in Malaysia, happened to be in the Subang Jaya Buddhist Society, teaching a retreat, and somebody asked me there, Ajahn Brahm, which was right after it, a couple of days, if you were Mr. Bush, what would you have done? And I'd have said I'd go on TV and I'd say, all the terrorists, especially Mr. Bin Laden, I forgive you. So there's been enough killing and hatred, but we're not going to have enough people have died already. I'm not going to kill or murder or send the CIA to come and try and find you and bring you to justice. Justice will be served by our ideals of a God or a heavenly being. It's not up to human beings to seek that justice. Leave it to something higher. Our job is to seek forgiveness and give forgiveness. And when I said that, just off the cuff, I got a standing ovation. People said, that's what we want, something different. Not violence. There's been too much of that. And I often quote, like Mahatma Gandhi. Hardly any resources he had personally, except, you remember one of the scenes, please excuse me, somebody did show me that movie of Gandhi, and it said that, he said that the British administration in India were going to leave peacefully by themselves. They weren't going to be fought into submission. And at the time they said, you must be crazy. You can't get rid of us that easily. And he did. He made it morally impossible for the British to continue their rule of India. Not militarily impossible, but morally impossible. I don't think that's used as powerfully as we could do.
So just quickly, the Buddha was saying, the mind is the forerunner of all states, It's the mind of these idiots, on top,
Yeah, but
if only they can realize it's the bloody... bloody minds, causing all these problems.
Yeah,
you can realize that.
Please don't ever call them idiots.
Sorry.
Instead, that you have to get on their side first of all. People only listen to you if you're their friend. So that's one of the reasons you do kindness first.
Kindness, yes.
And when you've got kindness,
I agree with that.
You can twist them around. Anyway, thank you, Eddie.
Thank you for
So now we got any questions from overseas? No? There we go. Questions from overseas. Thank you. And I've got the first question here. Come on. First question here is from Mr. Is it Putin? Can I please have Eddie's address? I'm only making it up, Eddie. It's okay. Dear Bhante, what is the best way to cultivate dispassion of the senses as a layperson? And then getting caught up in media, for example, when the senses are hijacked. Yeah, look, don't look at too much media. Come to the Buddhist Society more and go to the ABC less. I'm saying that, get some information about what's actually happening, but the comments on it sometimes will always be hijacked by the people who are giving those comments. So try to be a little bit... And the reason why is that the media always wants to sensationalize everything. And then sometimes I think you may remember this, in Kuala Lumpur some years ago, there's many riots against the Chinese part of Malaysia. And at the time, I remember a couple of people here, they received telephone calls from their friends here in Perth. Are you okay? Yeah, we're okay. What's the problem? So there's riots in Kuala Lumpur. Not where we are, because where they were, they didn't see or hear anything about that. And sometimes you wonder, even when there's bushfires, the bushfire in Serpentine, and people call, Ajahn Brahm, are you okay? What are you talking about? It's a bushfire somewhere in south. They got it all wrong. It's not Serpentine. It's just Serpentine Shire, which is quite big. Serpentine Jarradale Shire, goes all the way from Byford and down to Baldivis, and they think they're in danger of death. So sometimes that we'd like to sensationalize things. It makes our life exciting. So please, calm down. From Daisy. Dear Ajahn Brahm, how do we tell if someone can be trusted within a short time of knowing? Can you be trusted, Daisy Day? A lot of times, sometimes it gets so difficult. You have to balance many, many issues. As long as you feel that people have got a good heart, and probably can trust them as much as anybody, you can trust them as much as yourself. Wonderful. But, remember that give them some time and some opportunities to make mistakes, and you forgive them, and after a while we improve on our ability to both give trust and be trustworthy. It's a difficult thing to ask. From Vegan Megaman. Dear Ajahn, is that your name? I might get in trouble at work because I want to stop working so hard. Is that you? No, it's not that. I feel that resting, relaxation, making peace and simply being is more what I want. What should I do? That's obvious. Be a monk. It's a little joke, I say, but it has lots of deep meaning. I've just come back from overseas. Going to not that many places, but to Kuala Lumpur and to Singapore. And I saw very few human beings in Singapore or in Malaysia. I saw many human goings, human doings, but very few human beings. Always busy, doing something, going somewhere, improving something, rather than just being here and seeing what we have already and appreciating that. So try not to spend too much time doing things and going places. Just see what it's like just being here over the new year. From Smitha Tenzin, that's a Tibetan. Ajahn, as you ask us to trust the process and let things unfold, how would we prepare ourselves if things were to go wrong? Exactly. It goes wrong more because you prepare yourself too much and get too worried. So often, because a few times in my life I've been really stupid, things have gone wrong and I've escaped because I was stupid. The time when the bus was on fire, I've told you that story quite a few times. The bus was on fire, everyone else tried to escape and they went all over the place, one through the window. I was the driver, climbed out and everybody else pushing out, and it was a false alarm. And I was just in my seat, I didn't know what was going on. I just sat there, and when everybody came in again, they had to go past me because they put the monks in the front seat. They were all going, the Arahat. So impressive. So enlightened. Well done. I enjoyed that. Would nothing go wrong for us, or whatever happens will be good for us? It's a good question in the end. Nothing would go wrong. Of course things go different than we expected. They can go painful for us, but is that wrong? How many times have I told you, when you get sick, there's nothing wrong with being sick. There's nothing wrong with making mistakes. There's nothing wrong with getting sacked from work. I've been trying to do that for years, but the Buddhist committee just, they will not do that. So, will be good for us. You can actually say that if you wish. Many of the things which happen, at the time they feel it's just really hard for us. But once the years go past, we think that's the best thing which ever happened to us. I mentioned that I often teach in cancer patients, and I couldn't believe that I never had cancer. But then when the cancer people said that was the best thing which ever happened to me, having cancer, so many said that, it kind of just worried me. Is this really true? But then for a lot of people who went through that cancer, they said they learned so much of what's really important in life. It changed their lifestyle. They had to, otherwise they wouldn't survive. So it was, as said, one of the best things which happened to them in their whole life. Next question, how to deal with things when you are not ready to let go. You come to talks like this, or you listen to them online, and also, after a while, you find you are ready to let go. It's called brainwashing. I have brainwashed so many people in my lifetime. So many people would never think they were ready to let go, but eventually they did. So you keep coming here, and I admit it, we should put a sign up here, please be ready to be brainwashed. Because it's good brainwashing. Gets all the silly stuff out of your head. Then you think, in the end, you've been here so many times, you think, why not let go? Indeed, why not? So you do it. From Germany, how can you let go and find peace to meditate when the body is out of control and feels like death? How to stop getting scared? How can I strengthen my feelings? To go to those feelings. Don't be scared of them. Go to fear. What is fear? Fear is very afraid of being discovered what it truly is. And sometimes you used to use a simile, you've been being chased by a ghost. So you're running away, but the ghost is catching up. So what do? You turn around and you say to that ghost, "Whoa!" And the ghost gets scared and runs away. So like fear, you're being chased by fear. So instead, you turn around and you make fear afraid of you. Fear is afraid of confidence. Fear is afraid of kindness. So that way, you can be free. How do you apply the Dhamma to an adult child with severe alcoholism and refuses to get help or talk about it? If that's an adult child, it depends who that child is. And sometimes how to do that is to find out the weak point in that child. In other words, a place of leverage. I think I mentioned this story before. This was not a child with severe alcoholism. This was a child who was just lazy. And so he wasn't doing his homework at university, not putting the assignments in. And the parents were getting the message back that he's liable to fail and get kicked out of university. They talked to him, but like a 19 or 20-year-old kid, no way would they listen to their parents. So the parent, the father, was really smart. He waited up one night until he came home from going partying with his girlfriend. He waited and waited and waited. When they finally came back at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, very kindly he said, "Would you please both come inside?" And the son didn't know what he was up to. But the girlfriend, he was very kind, so going, "Yeah, why not?" So he went inside, and the father said to the girlfriend, the father wasn't speaking to his son. He just said to the girlfriend, "I don't know if you know, but I've been seeing you've been going out together for quite a while now. I don't know what your commitment is, but I thought you should know that there's a good chance that my son is going to get kicked out of university. His grades have been going down. And I'm sure you wouldn't like to marry someone who didn't have a university degree." And the girl said, "I didn't know that. He said his university was going okay. Well, I just thought I'd let you know. Good night, both of you. Enjoy the place. See you later." That son, he was really in trouble from now on. He wouldn't listen to his parents, but he certainly would listen to his girlfriend. She had 100% power over him. So even going out, "Have you finished your assignment yet? Have you finished this? Have you done that?" And so eventually he passed and got his degree. That's called girlfriend power. So if your son has any trouble and he's got a nice girlfriend which he's very fond of, you tie in with the girlfriend, you have full power over your son. He can't get away with anything from that time on. So anyway, it's just that person who has severe alcoholism, you've got to find something which will bring it to his mind, something which he can see. Sometimes if it's a family member, they just learn how not to listen to you. Find out something where he does listen to. Okay, that's the best I can do. So thank you all for listening. And now we can do the bowing to the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. It's, oh my goodness, it's 12 minutes past 9. I'm supposed to finish at 9 o'clock. Sorry for taking up so much time, but I'm just getting into practice for tomorrow night, when we have to stay up until midnight.